Hi guys, we are going to learn a little bit of a new concept today. You guys, I think already know this concept, but you just don't know the vocabulary for it. So we're going to go through some of our favorite drawing notes that we do in class sometimes. You are so welcome to make them pretty, but you need to get the information, so make sure you are not missing information while you are drawing and making it pretty. So first we're just going to define the vocabulary we'll need today. So we're going to talk about ratios and proportions. So ratio is a comparison of two quantities. A quantity is a number, an amount of something. Two quantities by division. So you are comparing two numbers by dividing them. And a proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. So we're going to look at an example of ratios first. So on your note sheet, you have a section right under where it says ratios and proportions. Right under that, you have some pictures. You have globes, which are big, huge, spherical or ball maps of the earth. You have globes and you have regular paper maps. This cat is not an artist, we all knew that. Wow, yeah. So you have both of those things. You have, okay, so on your sheet, right under where it says ratio and proportion at the top, you have some items, some pictures. One thing that you have is a globe, is a ball or spherical map of the earth. We know what a globe is. And the second thing that you have is paper maps. So you have different numbers of those items. Okay, so on your sheet you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 globes, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 paper maps. So when we are looking at a ratio, we could say that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 globes for every 4 maps. Or we have 6 globes, and I'm not sure if you've seen this before. We use these when we do analogies. This means 2. We have 6 globes to our 4 maps. We are comparing how much we have of each object. We can write these to look like a fraction, but it is not the same as a fraction, because a fraction is a part of a whole. We are not showing a part of a whole here. We are showing the comparison between how many globes and how many maps we have. If we wanted to do a fraction, I could say 1, 2, 2 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the whole amount of globes are colored in. Do you see how this is part over whole? In ratios, we are comparing two numbers. So in our classroom, we have 1 teacher and we have 11 students. So we have 1 teacher, 2, we're using our colon again, 11 students. In Miss Reagan's classroom, they have 2 teachers, Miss Reagan and Mr. Chase, and they have 20 students. 1 teacher, 2, 11 students, or in Miss Reagan's room we have 2 teachers, 2, 20 students. So now that we know what a ratio is, we're going to talk more about what a proportion is. So back to our example about globes and maps, our ratio said that we had 6 globes to every 4 maps. But we could also say that for every 3 globes, we have 2 maps. Because we have two equal sets of 3 globes, and we have 2 equal sets of 2 maps. So for each 3 globes that we have 2 maps. So when we write a proportion, we are showing that things are equal, ratios are equal. So for every 6 globes, I have 4 maps. Also, for every 3 globes, I have 2 maps. Those ratios are equal to each other. So now that we have seen what a proportion is, we're going to do a little practice problem. If right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 globes, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 maps, what if I told you that we got 3 more globes? How many more maps would we need? For every 3 globes, we have 2 maps. So we need 2 more maps for our proportions to be equal. So how many maps do we have now? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 globes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maps. So on your notes sheet, you have 4 sentences. The first one says there are blank navigational items. Navigational is a really big word. It means de navegación. It's something you use to show you where to go, directions. So if we said, we want to go to Europe, we could look at a globe or look at our map we have in our classroom on the wall, and we could point to Europe and say, Europe is northeast of Honduras. Sorry, I had to imagine the map in my head. So navigational items is something we use for navigation. So globes and maps we use both for navigation. So in total there will be 10 navigational items because we had 6 globes and 4 maps. Your next sentence says there are blank globes. We just said how many globes we had. Your next sentence says there are blank maps. And the last one is a sentence form of our ratio we talked about. It says for every blank maps, there are blank globes. So you should be able to fill those in by yourself after watching the first bit of that video. Then we are going to talk about how you can express or write ratios. So we have 3 ways that we can do that. The first box on your left says written form. So those are going to be in sentences. It's going to be like that last sentence that you wrote down. So we're going to say this one is written. So we're going to say maps 2 globes. We had 4 maps to 6 globes. Our next way that we can write it is in an odds notation, is what we call it. It is like probability. And we write that like this. For every 2 maps, there are 3 globes. That's when we use our colon that we were talking about earlier. 2 maps to 3 globes. Our last way is called a fractional notation. So these look like fractions. That's how you can remember what it is called. This is not a fraction. Remember, fractions are different because fractions are part of a whole. They are showing us what part we have or what part we want to look at over the whole amount. But ratios show us a comparison.